So on our last video, I started, I was talking about that I had got a segment ready that was basically coming out of the closet with that I know that aliens are part of my team. I created a video from an excerpt of our time together. And it's the first time that I very black and white came out and said, now I truly know that part of my team, part of my guides are physical and non-physical entities from other planets. And it was, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it was that excerpt of them coming through very clearly and explaining the journey that I had been on. So I have this other person in my life, and she commented on that video and said, this feels like mantis energy. So I'm reading, and I don't know who this is. She's got a weird thing on YouTube, so I didn't know it was someone that I knew. And I look at that word mantis and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? So I Googled it thinking whatever, and it has to do with like a praying mantis, a bug. And so I wrote something under it and said something like, I think this might be a typo, or I hope it's a typo, or something like that. And she comes back and she says, no, it's not a typo. And then her real self sends me a link on my phone. She sends me a link to an article or a website that's talking about different kinds of beings, different kinds of entities. I got whooshed, sick to my stomach with yuck, 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 yuck. The explanation was that these beings are, I believe, I only read just a few sentences because I freaked out, that they live on the earth, I guess, but that they are benevolent, and their mission is to work with people of the and their chakra system, which of course we know the angels have brought through so much to me around the chakras and how we need to facilitate using the chakras. So this is part of these beings journey, mission, I guess. So I read a little bit, and the first thing that basically happens is I get a little pissy, quite honestly, with her, because I think in that video, my guides very specifically describe the agreement that we have between them and I around moving forward without me being afraid. And now she's taking it on herself to push me with more in my face kind of knowings that made me get afraid. I don't want to be afraid. So I got a little pissy about that. When I listened to it or read what little bit I read, I got this very scary picture in my mind of this ginormous black bug that was scary and awful, and that there are these creatures that are hiding, and blah, you know, and I mean, my friggin' human brain just went nuts, and I got friggin' freaked right out. So I sat down in meditation, tried to clear my mind, and basically just asked the guides, you know, what is this about? Because nothing happens by accident. Nothing happens by accident. And they use all kinds of circumstances and people and whatnot, you know? And so I sat down and I'm like, you know, what is this about? And they gave me a picture in my mind of a being that had an oddly shaped head, narrow at the top, wide at the bottom, quite a small mouth, big bulbous eyes on the side of their head, smaller arms, and they were wearing like a cloak. I could see a collar and this draping down to the floor. And I'm like, what? And they dropped in a knowing. I don't know how literal it was. I don't know. But it was an understanding that there's a medium place between that big scary thing that my human brain went to and the reality of what these beings might look like. Now, like I say, I don't know how literal, but I mean, they dropped that picture right into my head pretty damn clearly, and I can see it in my mind right now. And since then, I've had meditations where there were a bunch of them around me and me feeling the energy of it. And then I got a knowing or a reminder around, you guys I know have heard me. There are times when my light language comes through that it gets very clicky. Wouldn't that sound insect-like?
And
And
oh,
go ahead.
I have the psychic I went to in Binbrook. She has many guides that come to her, and one of them are that mantis, and it
Oh, wow.
comes through as clicks. Just so you know,
It's just exactly what they
I can make
did
a
that thing
connection.
where they dropped multiple things into my head that just kind of made things come together. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot to absorb. And it just amazes me how it happens so quickly when it's time. How, excuse me, my allergies. I took an allergy pill before we started, but how I remember it was, I don't remember if it was weeks, but it was 2 times ago that when we were done, I was so uncomfortable. We had gone, it was like we were bringing through all alien stuff. And I'm like, what's the purpose of it? And yet, Sylvia, you brought it around so that I found my way to that very quickly when I listened back. And and it is that, look at who I am. I'm a 60-year-old registered nurse. I taught high school for 23 years. I'm from a rural town. There's nothing extraordinary about me. Nothing extraordinary about me. And they're taking me from complete fear to complete comfort. And I think that is going to be the intention, that someone like me who can really understand all of that whole thing is going to have an ability to bring an idea forward in a way that isn't going to be scary, because they're not scary. And but yet they're also in the most recent, in last week's, they're giving us a lot of information about discernment and about how to navigate, because there are those that don't have the highest good at their heart. And it was incredible. The piece that I cut out and that I've got ready to post, it talks about how we use basic common sense. I don't live my life in fear of being mugged or raped or my car being broke into. I don't live in fear of that. I know all good things are coming to me. But do I, without even thought or fear or from just the energy of just its common sense, do I lock my car when I get out of it and I leave my car on the street? Yeah. Do I walk away from the grocery cart with my purse left in it? No. Am I living in fear? No. But do I have these common sense practices? That's what they're starting to bring through. These common sense practices, as the more that we have an understanding of the way that the energy, benevolent and not benevolent, interacts with us, the more power we have, the more power of discernment, the more understanding. I'm just really beginning to see that this is all about, I love the term from childhood, living a spirit-led life. It is about living a spirit-led life. And when I was a little kid in church, what they described was that you just were so connected to the Holy Spirit that all of your actions came from that beautiful place of love and light and everyone's highest good. And that you just were able to do that without it costing you anything and without it, that's how I absorbed it. And it was when the religion talked about, sacrificing until it hurt. That's what didn't resonate. That's what helped, that's what began my separation from that, religious training. But that concept of it, that concept of living a spirit-led life, I've always had that. When I pray now and when I think, I start lots of my meditations with, give me what I need to be the best version of myself today. The best version of myself today. And what does that mean? What does that mean? So I don't know. That's kind of where we're at with that.